What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Screen Kings. My name is Christian here, and today I'm going to be writing solo for you guys as I review Dwayne Johnson's new film, The Smashing Machine. The Smashing Machine. Sorry, I said that wrong. All right, guys. So I saw The Smashing Machine. Goodness, I saw The Smashing Machine last night. And I just wanted to share my quick thoughts, give you guys a quick review of what I thought of this if you decided to check it out. But before I dive into my thoughts, I just want to give you guys a very brief synopsis of this film, The Smashing Machine. It says MMA fighter Mark Kerr reaches the peak of his career but faces personal hardships along the way. If you guys haven't seen the trailer for this film stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Mark Kerr. He's our main character, and it also stars Emily Blunt as his girlfriend turned wife throughout the film. This film is currently sitting at a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's 73% critics, 78% audience, which is kind of weird. You normally don't see that with critics and audiences. You know, it's kind of in the same pocket. So it seems like they're a little bit aligned. I will say off the bat, I think my enjoyment of the film is less than both the critics and the audience, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So I guess let's start off with The Rock. He's kind of the big draw. This is Dwayne Johnson in a very dramatic role. And for me here, he gives a solid enough performance, but nothing that screams or shouts, this is Oscar worthy, nor is it Oscar nomination worthy. I know a lot of people coming into this film saw the trailer, saw maybe some early reviews or reactions to The Smashing Machine and said, hey, this might be The Rock's opportunity to get that Oscar if that is something he's looking for. And after watching this film, while it is a solid performance, while he is giving it his all in the performance, this is not something that I believe deserves Academy attention. I don't believe it deserves a nomination, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. I think the big part of it is you can tell he's trying, but with some of those best actor roles or some of those best actors, you don't believe, they make you believe that you're not watching an actor, you're actually watching that person, you know? So a really great actor would make us feel like, okay, that is Mark Kerr. Here again, he does a solid job. It doesn't really take me out of the film, but it does feel like it's Dwayne Johnson trying to be Mark Kerr. And while he does his best, you can really tell that he is trying to act as this person. So while it is a solid performance, why I give The Rock credit for taking on this role and trying something different with his dramatic shoes, kind of going out of the box for him, I really don't think this is a good enough performance for Oscar consideration. Definitely not Oscar worthy. I think another major problem with The Smashing Machine is that it feels very distant. The way they shoot the film and the way they characterize the characters, it feels like we're almost watching maybe a documentary. We just never get emotionally invested in the characters. There's always a degree of separation between what is happening on the screen and us as the audience. And I think some of the best sports movies or some of the best drama movies really draw you in and make you feel like you're a part of what's going on screen. And I always just felt like a passive bystander watching what was happening. And I think part of that was because the film doesn't really lean into the sports stuff, nor does it really lean into the drama stuff. It like doesn't want to be a stereotypical sports movie, but it also doesn't want to be a stereotypical drama. So it tries to converge the two, and it really doesn't mesh well. It doesn't give you those highs and lows of a sports movie, kind of the dramatic build with a nice payoff, but it doesn't lean into the drama enough where you feel invested emotionally in what's going on with the characters. And there's some pretty heavy stuff in here. Mark Kerr's dealing with some drug issues and some trying to get fight back into the scene of MMA, and you should feel some level of something, but you really don't here. So the film feels very distant. Also, the camera work was an interesting choice. It almost has like an office feel, like documentary feel, and I think that feeds into like you feeling a degree of separation from what's going on in the film. And while it does add like a charm to the overall movie, I think in the long run it does hinder that emotional connection we have with the audience. So that was definitely a choice. I think another big thing here, and it's with The Rock too, I feel like either the direction or the camera work works to try to hide the inadequacies of The Rock's range of emotion. Some scenes in particular, and I won't really spoil anything, but there's some really emotional scenes. The Rock or Mark Kerr's character is going through something, and the camera's more focused on the back. Like you see The Rock, he's looking down, but the camera is back here, and there's several scenes like that. And these are supposed to be very emotionally heavy moments, but we're kind of focused on his back, or he's in the shower. He's leaning up against the shower, but we really only see his back. We don't see his face. We really don't see what he's going through, and that also creates a level of distance. There's also a couple scenes in here where Mark Kerr kind of breaks down from the struggles or the adversities he's faced, and I don't know if this was the direction given to The Rock, but he's crying, he's emotional, and he just puts his hands or like a blanket or something over his face. And especially the second time around, I almost laughed because it really felt like The Rock was fake crying. Like I didn't buy into the fact that he was actually crying. It really felt like The Rock was trying to cry and it came off as fake to me personally. And with that, I got a chuckle, especially the second time around. So it felt like the camera work, maybe the direction he was given, really was it highlighted that The Rock just doesn't maybe necessarily have the emotional range to to convey the complexities or the nuances of this real life person in the various scenes. I mean, I think The Rock does do a good job of capturing kind of the nature of Mark Kerr's personality, the fine bits and pieces. There's also some moments of anger that The Rock has to express, especially towards Emily Blunt's character. I think he does that particularly well, but then again, that's something that we've seen from him in the past before. He's got that ability to convey anger. So that was something that I really noticed in this film. I also saw that it was either the dialogue or the line reading of the dialogue was pretty bad at times. I don't know if it was the way the film was written or if it was the line reading by some of these actors or individuals, but there was just certain moments where it just was a little bit cringy for me, took me a little bit off guard, or even again made me chuckle. And there's several different moments in this film where I think the film is trying to be dramatic and it actually makes you laugh. And I don't think that's the film's intention. So you are enjoying it for the reasons the film, for different reasons than the film wants you to enjoy it. And there was even others in my theater that were laughing too. So I just really feel like the dialogue or the line reading of some of these individuals, it came off as funny. Some of it came off a little melodramatic in certain parts. And that again took me out of the film. Also, it's an MMA film, UFC, and I liked really seeing, I think that's one of the best aspects of the film, is I really liked seeing that the origins of MMA and UFC, really seeing the ground up and how Mark Kerr was a part of that, and his buddy, fellow fighter Mark Coleman was a part of that. I really enjoyed seeing them kind of build what we know now as UFC or MMA, especially from early on. But I don't think the film really did a good enough job at selling MMA or UFC if that's something you're not interested in. I always feel like these sports movies, like the Creed movies, like you go in and the boxing scenes are so good that you want to go watch boxing if you don't watch boxing. For this, though, if you're not into MMA or UFC like myself and you watch these scenes of fighting, it does nothing to move the needle for me of wanting to go out and watch this sport. And I think this film could have been a good opportunity not only to highlight Mark Kerr and his career and his contribution to the sport, but also just to market the sport as a whole to those that don't watch the sport, to get them drawn and invested to the sport that is so big now. And unfortunately, I feel like the film fails at that. There's also a side character, Mark Coleman, who's a buddy of Mark Kerr's character, and I feel like his arc and journey is much more fascinating than Mark Kerr's character. And I don't know why they decided to focus on Mark Kerr and not Mark Coleman, when Mark Coleman was there from the beginning. He kind of worked with Mark Kerr, and I won't spoil anything, but he has a much better arc, I feel like, in exploration of what he's dealing with, at least when we look at from the framework of a sports movie. And I thought his story, we see a little bit of it, but if we could have explored that more, maybe had the movie just focused on him, I thought that would have been a lot more interesting. The film is also very flat and it's disjointed at times. Like characters will be talking about stuff that's not really mentioned, or seen earlier on, especially during like verbal fight scenes between the couple. It's like, well, you did this or that. It's like we didn't see it or hear about this before, and it just makes you feel really disjointed, like you're missing bits and pieces of what's been going on. And there's really no emotional build. Again, it plays into that feeling distant from the characters, and the film feels kind of flat. The pacing feels flat, so there's really no emotional build. So when we get to the climax of the film, at least for me personally, even though the film is only 2 hours and 3 minutes, I was like, okay, we can wrap this up. It felt like it dragged a little bit, and which is weird because I just saw one battle after another the previous week, and that movie's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that film felt quicker than the Smashing Machine, which is almost 45 minutes less. So there's really no emotional build. As an audience, I felt like, at least personally for me, you don't really get in buy into the emotional stakes of what the character is going through. And this includes when he's going through his personal struggles in his personal life with certain drugs and things of that nature, painkillers. I wish we got to explore that a little bit more in his struggles, but then again, it just really feels surface level to me, like they're trying to touch on different things in the film. And that's the problem with these biopics, whether musical or non-musical. It's like this person has such a rich history that trying to touch on all the major points of a person's life in a biopic can be very difficult. And I do appreciate this film. This film takes place from 1997 to 2000, so it is a condensed amount of time. But even in a condensed amount of time, I feel like we're just getting surface level stuff, and I wish we dove in deeper into Mark Kerr's struggles and then his fall and then rise back into the MMA. And like I said before, lastly, it doesn't really lean into the drama, doesn't really lean into the sports, so you're left with something in the middle. I think people will enjoy this if you're the Rock fan. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. Maybe if you like MMA, you'll get something out of this. But for me, this was definitely underwhelming, especially given the hype that I heard that this was going to be kind of the vehicle that gets the Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, excuse me, his Oscar. And watching this film, for me, I don't think Dwayne Johnson gets an Oscar nomination, and I don't think this film gets, honestly, any Oscar nominations. I think this is one of those, if you want to call it Oscar bait films, you can. I don't think it's that bad. But it's definitely one that was underwhelming for me. And one, this film doesn't, when I watch this film, it doesn't say I must go to the theater to see this. This is one of those things that I might watch on like Apple TV or something at home. So overall, guys, that's my review and thoughts of The Smashing Machine. I would give this film probably a 6 out of 10. You might think it's lower given all my comments, but I think it does offer a little something, just getting to explore the people that were the foundation of MMA or UFC, and also Mark Kerr's struggles with, painkillers and masculinity and things of that nature. There's definitely dipping into some themes that were interesting, but it doesn't fully flesh it out the way I wanted to. So I would give The Smashing Machine a 6 out of 10. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the movie. So if you saw it, let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time here on the Screen Kings. Bye-bye for now.